Hello. Welcome to the podcast, Human Rights in America, a Revolutionary Mindset. I am your host, Sue Young. Welcome to the podcast. Last episode, I interviewed my Aunt Christy. Although the episode was short, there was a lot of good information exchanged. Go back and listen to episode 12. I want to give a big thank you to my nephew, Brandon Young, who made the beats for the interview music last week. If you need beats for your next project, contact me at hrinamerika@gmail.com. Today, I want to talk about DEI programs. That's diversity, equity, and inclusion. Companies such as Lowe's, John Deere, Molson Coors, and Harley-Davidson have ditched their DEI programs. Have they given up on diversity, equity, and inclusion, or have they crumbled under political pressure? I don't know. The question for today is, why are so many DEI programs failing? Because this is a human rights program, I will postulate that along with the many factors identified by the experts, I believe that corporate DE&I programs fail because America has not fully embraced or recognized our human rights as outlined in the 1948 UN Declaration. So let's get to it. Recently, I've read an article entitled Why Diversity Programs Fail by Frank Dobbin and Alexander Caleb, dated July, August 2016. This article stated that after Wall Street firms reportedly had to shell out millions to settle discrimination lawsuits, businesses started to get serious about their efforts to increase diversity. But unfortunately, they don't seem to be getting results. Businesses started caring a lot about diversity after a series of high-profile lawsuits rocked the financial industry. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Morgan Stanley shelled out $54 million, Smith Barney and Merrill Lynch more than $100 million each to settle sex discrimination claims. In 2000, Morgan was back at the table facing a new class action which cost the company $46 million. In 2013, Bank of America Merrill Lynch settled a race discrimination suit for $160 million. These cases brought Merrill's 15-year payout total to nearly $500 million. We forget about that because the recent news focused on the diversity aspect of DE&I programs rather than the equity portion, sex discrimination. Instead, some people use George Floyd and Breonna Taylor's deaths as a reason for the rise of the DEI programs. The recent Supreme Court decision, which removed race consideration from school admissions, was passed. Companies jumped on the bandwagon to eliminate their DEI programs. Let's get back to the financial corporations that started this push for diversity, equity, and inclusion after losing $500 million. It's no wonder that Wall Street now requires new hires to sign arbitration contracts, agreeing not to join class action lawsuits. They have also expanded training and other diversity programs, but on balance, equality isn't improving in financial services or elsewhere. This article from 2016 indicates that between the years 2003 and 2014, white women's representation dropped from 39% to 35%, and Black men from 2.5% to 2.3. Hispanic population actually rose to 4.7. Oops. The Hispanic population rose from 4.7 in 2003 to 5.7 in 2014. But the Silicon Valley markets, which are tech industries, are still dominated by white men, so it shouldn't be surprising that programs aren't increasing diversity. Companies are basically doubling down on the same approaches that they've used since 1960s. Here, I'm going to pause and simply state that even I figured out after reading a few DEI books and listening to some experts that DEI programs were basically the new affirmative action. Corporations have long relied on diversity training to reduce bias on the job. They use hiring tests and performance ratings to limit bias in recruitment. But as social scientists have found out, people often rebel against rules to assert their autonomy. They are coerced to do X, Y, and Z. They will do the opposite just to prove that they are still their own person. Many DEI programs are staffed by individuals hired by the leadership teams. But studies show that it's probably better to engage or involve middle management with solutions that may simply improve social interaction between managers and qualified people, despite their varied background. But we'll talk more about that later. Let's look at some ways top-down approaches typically go wrong. Executives favor a classic control approach to diversity because it boils down the expected behaviors to do's and don'ts that are easy to understand and defend. This approach flies in the face of nearly everything we know about how to motivate people and to make changes. Decades of social science research pointed to the simple truth: you won't get managers on board by blaming and shaming them with rules and re-education. We should ask, do people who undergo diversity training shed their biases? The research shows that the overwhelming answer to this is no. While people are easily taught to respond correctly to questionnaires about their biases, they soon forget the right answers. The positive effects of diversity training rarely last beyond a day or two, and the test can activate bias or spark a backlash. All the workers understand the message. If you discriminate, the company will pay the price. But threats or negative incentives don't win converts. Additionally, according to the 2016 article, many participants actually report more animosity toward the groups after diversity training. In a 2023 Forbes article entitled "Why Many DEI Programs Are Failing and How to Improve Them," we see that diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, the new B, training and programs are included into organizations to support the creation of equitable workplaces. The pandemic has reminded us that people need to feel connected and part of something, which has prompted the addition of belonging into DEI programs. Belonging also impacts well-being. If I feel like I don't matter or I'm not valued, it impacts my mental, emotional, and social health, key dimensions of a well-being. And we know that being are interdependent, and when one is impacted over time, so are the others. In a new survey released this month from WebMD Health Services on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, uncovering what employees are offered, want, and need, 62% of workers surveyed say diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging programs aren't effective. Nearly half, 46%, say the programs have failed them. Personally, nearly 2 in 3 report they would benefit if their company were truly committed to DE&B efforts, while 72% of respondents want to work for a company that valued DEI and B initiatives. May include education and training, mental and emotional health support, mentoring, resources for gender identity and sexual health, and paid time off for volunteering. The issue is a lack of accountability by CEOs is not matched by follow-through. 73% said that the job of promoting and implementing DEI and B initiatives should reside with managers or supervisors rather than senior leaders, and only 16% said the task should be left to human resources departments. Females are more likely to feel like they are not valued or feel like an outsider. Women believe their company is ineffective in holding leaders accountable. Specifically, 75% want to work for a company that values DEI and B. DEI and B programs fail because America has not embraced the values of the 1948 UN Declaration of Human Rights, like Article 2, no discrimination without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, birth, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, or other status. In Article 23, no work discrimination, equal pay for equal work, and Article 29, that we are all responsible for other people's rights. But because we don't appreciate these rights, it makes it difficult for corporations to create a culture that suddenly care about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. In the past, we used legislation to trigger action. Thus, affirmative action was born. However, white lash, which is reverse discrimination, has cropped up. These groups present false argument that America is under attack from a so-called woke agenda. Even today, the situation is far from equal, yet they spread the false narratives that they are victims of reverse racism. Today, many business leaders are unaware of the automatic advantages because of their race and gender. They may not realize it. Even meritocracy often fails to account for how the realities of life keep non-white and other marginalized workers from achieving the same success as their white male peers, despite their best efforts. Remember, This DEI thing started with financial corporations losing over $500 million in both sex and race discrimination lawsuits. Now the focus is only on race, no mention of sex discrimination or willingness to give equal pay for equal work for women. I believe that any system such as DEI programs need a head start in the everyday world before they get assigned or corporate buildings. How much easier would it be to attain equity in the workplace if there were laws guaranteeing women equal pay for equal work? They've done this already in sports, soccer, tennis, and they're working on track and field. Yes, there will be gaps to fill, but not nearly as wide as the current divide. For me, as long as America continues to ask your race on every application, we will continue to struggle with diversity. Let's stop adopting the flawed race question and force the American system to embrace meritocracy, or at least give it the old college try. I'll continue the discussion next week, focusing on what other ways programs can be successful, stressing the acceptance of human rights. I'll leave you with a quote from author and speaker Alfie Kahn. People will typically be more enthusiastic where they feel a sense of belonging and see themselves as a part of a community than they will in a workplace where each person is left to their own devices. Our ability to reach unity and diversity will be the beauty and the test of our civilization. Mahatma Gandhi. Until next time, be revolutionary, be human.